tonight's forum. We will do first introduction, cap that at 3 minutes. Mr. Alex Reyna, Secretary, will be our timer for us. Responses to questions are 1 minute, and if there are needs for respectful rebuttals, they are 1 minute as well. We ask to keep your answers concise and precise to help and benefit yourselves and the audience's understanding of your policies and your perspectives. So without further ado, we will start with Mr. Tongipa to give his introduction, please.
Perfect, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is David Tongipa. I am running for State Assembly District 8. Jim Patterson has turned out, and Jim has endorsed me to replace him, along with Sheriff Mims, Sheriff Zanoni, Lisa Smith-Camp, the California Professional Firefighters Association, state police officers, and a whole lot of others. And I'm here to earn your support for this district. And so I look at the state of affairs that California is in today. We're the 5th largest economy in the world, and yet we have rolling blackouts. I think back to 2020, where I worked on the Creek Fire, where my friends and family lost a home in the Creek Fire. And I worked with Fresno County Supervisor Nathan Maxey every day to make sure that we were reporting to the community members here so that they could get through some of these emergencies. I've worked on emergency policy when it comes to drought, flooding, tree mortality, the current issues that we're going through today when it comes to crime, unaffordability, and the different things that we all see. California doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to a whole lot of individuals. I was recently asked to go to Iowa to talk to the presidential candidates, and I got to interact with Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, and legislators across the nation. And they asked me one question: is California really that bad? Yes. And after 7 hours of speaking and letting them know all the issues, I told them, but there's hope. Absolutely. There is hope. There is hope because people are starting to wake up, and people want to do something different. And that is what my campaign is about. I believe that the definition of insanity is voting for the same people and expecting different results. And we're trying to push, and we've actually won. I worked with Senator Grove on SB 14, a child sex trafficking law, to make child sex trafficking a strikeable offense here in California. And it originally lost and died in the California Public Safety Committee. So what did I do? I did something different. I created a public pressure campaign utilizing Senator Shannon Grove to highlight and to educate and to expose with different marketing and media tactics. My master's is in marketing. I know how to talk to the people. Within 48 hours, over 4 million people were activated. 90,000 people wrote to the governor's office, and we forced it to the floor, and it passed unanimously. When did child sex trafficking become arguable in California? That is the state of affairs that we're in today. So if you're down to do something different, vote for David Tongipa by March 5th, and that's why I'm running for State Assembly District 8. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is George Verdanovich, also running for State Assembly District 8, and many of you know me because I served as your congressman for 16 years. I walked away in 2010 to return to my hometown of Mariposa to raise my son, and dropped out of politics, but I've grown increasingly frustrated with the way that the Democrats have degraded California. It compels me to get back in with the experience that I have to produce the right climate for change in California. Now, I will tell you that the reason we're in such a sorry state in the state of California is because the Democrats have a supermajority and have passed awful laws like Proposition 47, Proposition 57, AB 109, that encourage the lawlessness that we're experiencing today. They passed AB 32, which is the global warming initiative, which is a fantasy that's strapping billions of dollars of debt on us as taxpayers and on our government. It needs to be repealed. And they've also enacted CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, as a means of stopping growth by making it too expensive and delaying it too long. And that's why housing is so unaffordable. That's why we have homeless on the street. It keeps us Californians from freedom and solving the problems that we should be able to solve on our own. I'm endorsed by Tom McClintock and Frank Bigelow, 10 county supervisors, 3 county sheriffs, a number of the, when I served in Congress, I represented 80% of the district. So people know me, all except for Mono and Inyo County. And there's not a lot of people over there, but a lot of land and a lot of good people. So I'm here to make a difference. Before we can make it, solve the problems in California, we have to give Democrats and independents a reason to come back to the Republican Party. I promise you I've got the answers and we'll make that happen. Then we're on our way to healing this state. So I appreciate your vote on March 5th.
Thank you, gentlemen. So the following questions were submitted to our treasurer, Ms. Arbuckle, who could not make it tonight, but we have them for you. So the first one, and we'll just start again with Mr. Tongupa, is your top 3 priorities as a state assemblyman.
Okay, perfect. So again, my top 3 priorities, I think this is top of mind for everybody, especially everybody who just got their PG&E bill. Their PG&E is the cost of living. Just paid over $500 in PG&E, and I actually got to meet with somebody over this weekend when I was door knocking and talking to voters, and they pulled out their PG&E bill, and it was $1,200. $1,200. You look at the state of affairs that California is in, and we can't keep the lights on. We struggle with a lot of these issues because California, over the last 30 years, have created multiple California policies of scarcity. And I'm running to challenge that. And I've already and revived a bill that Assemblyman Jim Patterson has been working on for a long time, and that's to include large-scale hydroelectrical facilities onto our green energies renewable portfolio. We can decrease the cost by increasing the supply, lowering the demand, by including large-scale hydroelectrical facilities, because it's absolutely insane that it's not. Sorry, and I'll be very quickly, my last 2 are actually public safety and forest management. Again, my family lost their home in the Creek Fire. That's a big deal. In the work that I've done and worked on the ballot initiative with Lisa Smith-Camp to pull and to repeal Prop 47, I've got her support, and Anne Marie Schubert, who ran for the Attorney General as well, because of what we're doing to stop these stop-on-crime policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tongupa. Mr. Donovan?
1 minute is not a long time to go into detail. What I will tell you is that I will work either through the legislature or ballot initiatives to repeal 47, 57, 109, the pro-crime legislation, the laws that I mentioned, moratorium on CEQA and AB 32, and last but not least, we cannot be a free state and country without strong families and strong religious influence in our policies in Sacramento. I promise you that I will speak to every church in the country that'll allow me to come in to talk to them and get more engaged in the prayer groups and the prayer closets. And I have a plan to restore families by bringing them back together. And again, that's the tough work that needs to be done in order for us to restore the country. And I promise you also that I will not raise taxes on the people of Fresno.
All right, next question, please. This should be a fairly short answer or not. But the first one is, are you a believer that life begins at conception, Mr. Radonovich?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Perfect. Mr. Tongupa?
Yes, and mainly because I look at the California Criminal Code. The California Criminal Code actually shows that if somebody was to commit murder on a pregnant woman, even if she didn't know that she was pregnant, that is a double homicide. I don't have to listen to my opinion, I just have to listen to the opinion of California. That was set in the law because of the Scott and Lacey Peterson case. We all know that if you recognize it as a life in one instance, it's a life in all instances. And so I allow it to speak out.
That's what God says.
Thank
It's
you.
not the
Next
government,
question
it's
is,
God.
do you believe marriage is between a man and a woman, Mr. Radonovich?
Yes, I definitely believe marriage is between a man and a woman. I think the reason why there's so much confusion on this issue is because we need to bring families back together, and we need moms and dads as role models in the homes again. Because there's so much debate about this. We shouldn't have it. If our families are back together and parents are diligent in raising their kids, we can fight the schools that are trying to pull our kids away from families and indoctrinate them into socialism. The main goal of socialism is to destroy the family, because because if they do, they take over the country. And the best line of defense is for us to rebuild families, and I've got a plan to do that, and we cannot reverse the damage being done to families and fight the state unless we get families back together, and I will be at the lead on both those issues.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I believe that marriage between a man and a woman, I practice and believe in traditional marriage. And I look at the state of affairs that we're in today in California. We have a priority issue. We are talking about all of these different things when our education system's 50 out of 50 when it comes to English and comprehension, 46 out of 50 when it comes to math and science. And we're focusing on a lot of different things. We need to dial things back to the basics, do the traditional things properly better, highlight a lot of these individuals and to show people a better life. So I'm focused on dialing things back down, focusing on handling the issues at the basic level, because then things will start to correct itself. When we're in schools and we have better schools with reading and comprehension again, when we have better math and science, it's time to dial it back in. It's time to focus on priorities. We've got to dial in into policing the streets and getting out of policing the streets and really focus on promoting the values here that we show by living that life through it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And Mr. Tompkins, we'll start with you this time. And this might be a lengthy answer, so we'll spend it 2 minutes. What principles do you govern by?
I don't know if we need a long conversation on this one, but it's easy. The Constitution is the principles and the values. The individuals who wrote the Constitution spent over 40 days walked in Pennsylvania to talk about all of these different ones. And they came up with the First Amendment. The First Amendment are your God-given rights. Nobody has a right to touch any of those. The Second Amendment is your right and your teeth to protect your First Amendment. They focus on that. So we just have to get back to the basics. Dial in. Do what government does best and get it and remove itself from working in morality and values and injecting itself, and allow the individuals to promote the individual freedom and also protect yourself. And so I focus, my values are stemmed directly from the Constitution and our founding fathers.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, my guiding principle is what everybody wants in their life, and that's freedom to make their own decisions and make their way in the world. What keeps them from that is taxes and regulations by the government who wants to take over every part of your life. They literally want to take the children out of your home and force you to raise them the way they see fit. Our biggest enemy is socialism. My guiding principles are pro-life, pro-gun, anti-tax, anti-regulations, and I'm the only candidate who vows not to raise your taxes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Tongi, when it comes to the cost of living, we have seen PG&E begin to raise rates based off of income levels. How do you plan to specifically lower costs, especially for veterans and senior citizens? 2 minutes.
Well, I think I actually touched on that fairly quickly, especially with large-scale hydroelectric facilities. But just to give a little bit meat to those potatoes, in 2002, the senators actually proposed a bill. It's called SB 1078, which created the Energy Portfolio. Environmentalists left out large-scale hydroelectric facilities and nuclear. The Diablo Canyon facility actually produces 13% of California's energy, and yet it's not considered green and renewable, and then there's a limitation on that. That is by 2030 and by 2035, every single vehicle is supposed to be electric, but we can't keep the lights on now. And by 2030, 50% of the energy produced here in California has to be identified as green and renewable. The best way we can do it right now is add existing large-scale hydroelectric facilities and nuclear to the grid. We will meet every single requirement that they are asking for, and we will also end rolling blackouts by simply including the existing infrastructure without, as we're negotiating with the other side, adding a single carbon emission, needing to build anything at the cost of just legal paper. We can do that right now, and it's being innovative again. Jim Patterson tried it in 2012, it didn't work. Adam Gray, a Democrat, tried it in 2018, it didn't work. Anna Caballero tried a one-off shoot, and she's a senator on the other side as well. For Don Pedro, it didn't work. I've already showed a playbook that actually works where we can force bills to the floor by educating and exposing. I have a master's in marketing. It's the thing that I invest at. It's the same thing that I did when it came to the Creek Fire and getting that information out, working on SB 14, and working on a lot of these different bills. We've done it. Now we just got to educate the general voter, because most people don't know what that is. I want to spend my time doing exactly that.
Mr. Radonovich, would you like the question?
No, I think I got it. You know, the real force behind PG&E and raising rates is the high cost of fossil fuels in the state of California. PG&E, most of what they do is the energy they generate is either gasoline or natural gas. And this state is trying to put a nail in the coffin of the fossil fuel industry in California. That's why I support repealing AB 32. We will never be able to replace our need for fossil fuels with wind and solar. It'll never take up more than 25–30% of our energy portfolio. And sometimes I want to shake Sacramento into reality and get that point. We need to make fossil fuels more available in the state of California. We can concentrate on efficiency for emissions purposes, but we need to re-embrace fossil fuels. And I want everybody to be thankful when they drive home tonight for fossil fuels, because that's what gets you home tonight, by and large, even on your electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are going to crash and burn. It's a financial catastrophe for everybody in the state, individually in business, but also the amount of money the government is spending to force this conversion is nonsense. And it's time for us to accept that. Cleaner burning fossil fuels, if you want to focus on hydro energy generation, hydrogen cell and fusion down the line, but we have to re-embrace fossil fuels and get more production here in California, get the supply of.
Thank you very much. On to taxes. Mr. Radonovich, we'll start with you. What is your position on Measure E?
I'm opposed to Measure E. I think it's an unjust tax on the people of Fresno County. I support Fresno State, I want that known. But Fresno State is called Fresno State because it's a state-owned facility. And it's due to the failure of our local representatives in Sacramento who have not been able to bring home the bacon to make sure that upkeeps are proper on the university. And and that's, you can't double tax people. Prices are high enough as it is. You're forcing people to pay more for their gasoline and for their food when at a time when the prices are way too high to begin with. So it's an unjust tax. It needs to be defeated. I'm the only candidate that supports that says vote no on Measure E. And there are better ways to solve that problem. As your representative in the Assembly, I will work diligently to work with other members who have similar colleges throughout the state, and will bring the funding home for Fresno State the right way.
So again, I think everybody knows my story. I played football at Fresno State, but also in 2016 I was homeless at Fresno State. And Fresno State has made me a business owner where I've been able to do over $20 million in sales. I was recently able to give my mother her green card and her citizenship because of contacts made at Fresno State. I'm open and honest about this. I personally am voting yes on Measure E because I don't turn my back on those who took care of me and made me what I am today and for where I'm at. I'm not advocating for anybody else to do it because my campaign is focused on winning the Assembly so I can go get our just desserts from Sacramento and highlight and expose what is going on. I'll never turn my back on my community, even if it is politically advantageous for me. That is my dedication because I believe loyalty is the first thing that we have to do. That is my personal choice. I'm not advocating, and that's why I have the Lincoln Club's endorsement. The Lincoln Club is no on Measure E, but they're yes on David Tangipahoa, because I'm dedicated and I'm the only candidate who lives in Fresno County who can support and fight for this area. Thank you.
So, Mr. Radonovich, follow-up on Measure E was sent by one of our individuals here. On the subject of Measure E, what is your opinion of board members of Measure E making up to $81,000 a year?
It's wrong. I don't know how else to say this. I mean, it is wrong from the start. to be able to force the taxpayers of Fresno County to support a state university when it's the obligation of the state to support it. It raises taxes in the amount of over $1.5 billion over 25 years, and that's an outrageous amount to pull out of the pockets of hardworking men and women of Fresno County. So yes, it sets up a commission to be able to pay people up to $80,000 a year to make a decision on how that money will be spent. And that's more reason not to vote for Measure E. There's too much, it kind of stinks from the get-go. And this is no way to take care of Fresno State. And it's unjust to the taxpayers to have that burden. So that's just another bad part of this measure that adds on to the need to be able to shut this measure down.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tonkipa, what is your opinion on Measure E board members making up to $81,000 a year?
Yeah, I don't agree with that position. I mean, again, focused on where I look at the facility itself. Fresno State is a non-ADA compliant facility. That means it's not up to the American Disabilities Act requirements. And I worry about what's happening in Kings County right now, where there's an individual group that are suing a lot of the schools there in a $30 million lawsuit, shutting down their local schools. I believe that the state universities and this different group is next. And imagine what that would do to our community, that we go through that and we lose Fresno State. Just think about how much and how important it is to this community. Again, it's my personal opinion and what I'm working for. I'm not advocating, my campaign is not about that. And I just ask you all to just realize, especially if you live in this community, what it means to you personally, and then move from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tonkipa, we'll start with you on this one. If elected, you will face a Democrat supermajority in Sacramento for both chambers, the Assembly and the Senate. Knowing this, how will you maximize your effectiveness?
Well, as I've already explained, we've already got a win under my belt, and I'm not even there yet. And we're going to keep on doing it because it's a new game plan. It's a new direction. It is doing something different because we have keep trying to do the same thing. That work that I did with Senator Grove, everybody would have said the same thing. Well, you're dealing with a supermajority, give up. They killed your bill. They didn't even take a vote on child sex trafficking, and I said hell no. I said hell no, because when I was 14 years old, I had a family member of mine who was trafficked by a former teammate of mine. And I saw it every day in one of the worst areas in California for child sex trafficking. And I did not give up. I didn't give up. I started that same playbook, and it's time to educate and expose. Because this is the silver lining on that. With only 18 Republicans in the Assembly and with only 8 senators, at least I know who to blame. Because we're a glorified advisory board there. So if I can highlight and expose who's in charge and whose fault it is, I'm the only candidate with a master's in marketing and has won and passed bills in the state legislature. It's time to keep on winning. So if you want to join the winning team, we've got it.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I do think the only plan that I have that will work with Democrats in Sacramento is my plan to restore families by strengthening the bond between children and their biological parents. And that is a bipartisan issue that if I am able to get it passed, will strengthen families, and the more you strengthen families, the more conservative our state gets. And other than that, it's going to repeal the laws that I mentioned before. Mike Reynolds, God bless him, did a great job with 3 strikes you're out and working with Assemblyman Bill Jones. They had no chance of getting that through the legislature, but they worked their ballot initiative as well, and they built up public support for it. And I'm going to use the model of Bill Jones and Mike Reynolds to be able to put pressure to change the minds of the legislature to do what's right to fix this state. So, with, repealing 47, 57, AB 109, AB 32, the global warming initiative, and at least a moratorium on CEQA is going to be a fight. Yeah, but as was mentioned, the people of California are ready to change. They want to hear the agenda that will convince them that if we do this, the state will be fixed. And those are the points that I mentioned right now is the package I will put together and convince convey to the public and get support for them to come to the Republican Party, because now we have the answers.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tagipa, as a state assemblyman, you will have the authority to hire a legislative staff. Knowing this, how do you envision your staff and what kind of selection process do you have and responsibilities for them?
Well, again, as I stated, Jim Patterson is terming out, and Jim has endorsed me. The way I look at it, I think Jim has been an amazing representative for our community. What he's done to challenge and tackle a lot of the EDD that happened during COVID. Jim's staff was the #1 staff at that response. I look at some of these individuals in those same bills when it was challenging and tackling the energy crisis. The individuals are there. That is how we don't start from zero. I plan on keeping Jim's staff in place because I have worked with them personally. When I was the field representative for Fresno County Supervisor Nathan Magsig, they always responded to me, they always got back, and we handled issues. We're gonna be a solution-based group. They have already proven that they have that, and it's those individuals that I'm gonna keep, so that way we can hit the ground running.
Thank you. Mr. Radonovich?
You know, as I walk the district in Clovis and Northeast Fresno, and knock on doors and talk to people, I'm amazed at how they will say, yes, I remember you, and I remember what your office did for me. When I contacted your office and I had a special issue about this or that, the follow-up was always amazing. And again, I'm really, it makes me feel good to know that I was able to develop great staff that responded well and took care of the needs of the district. I've got a great reputation for that, and I will maintain it. I promise you my staff will be everywhere in this district, responding to your needs and following up just like they did during my term in Congress.
Thank you, guys. Final question for the submitted ones ahead of time. Mr. Radonovich, when making a hard decision, what process do you take to make that?
Well, I'm a big believer in prayer, and you know, it's important, I think, to have a right relationship with God in prayer, that you have the guidance to be able to make the right decisions. I also use the guiding principles of the Constitution, and does it tax or does it regulate? Those are the things that kind of guide me into this. I believe that what Californians want the most is the freedom to be able to live their lives. I believe that the enemy of socialism is the family, and anything that rebuilds the family, I will support, because it allows us to be conservative and free again in this state. So my guiding principles is whatever makes us free in California and whatever maintains a conservative state. It's obviously fills the letter of the Constitution, no tax, no regulation. That's my guiding principle.
So when it comes to making the hard decision, it's very easy. I'm Polynesian, and as Polynesians go, you focus on God, you focus on family, and you lean on your traditional values. They always guide you through. There's going to be a lot of decisions that we need to make here in California that are hard. Time to make the hard conversations and to lean onto those traditional values. I look at that. I've always leaned on my family. I've always leaned on my faith, and I've always leaned on the community members who have wrapped their arms around me to put me in this position. So when I look at it, I've got the support base to stand with me when these hard decisions have to be made. And there's a whole lot coming. And so I look at it, we have God, we have my family, and we have the traditional values.
Thank you very much. Please give a round of applause, please. So we're going to take some audience questions.